With thanks to Randall Arts Management, visit www.randallam.com.au for more information. You're listening to Footscray Live. Welcome everybody, broadcasting live from Footscray City College. You're listening to Footscray Live. My name is James, and today I have my panel, Archie, and Hannah. Today we are going to be interviewing Ian Ferreter and Juliet Matskarovsky.
Perfect.
And they work for Gamblers Help Program. So how are you guys today?
Doing
You go
well.
first, Juliet, because you're the lady and I'm the gentleman.
Oh, well, thank you, Ian. We're doing very well today.
That's good. So tell us a bit about your work at the Gamblers Help Program.
Well, I've been working at Gamblers Help for 3 years now. And the whole purpose of our work is to help people who are being harmed through gambling in some way. So that might be the person who's gambling, or it might be somebody that they know. So we help those people. And the other work we do is to try and prevent people getting into that sort of problem area in the first place. So we do prevention work, which is trying to prevent people from suffering gambling harm. And then we work on helping people who are experiencing gambling harm and try and help them through that time.
Yeah.
Archie M here. Juliet, why are there no clocks in casinos?
That is a good question. So there are clocks in pokies venues. In casinos, they have different regulations.
Archie here. I was just wondering, how many people do you think you get a day coming in with problems with gambling?
That is a good question. I couldn't tell you exactly, but we do have lots of people accessing our Gamblers Help service in the West. I couldn't tell you exactly the number. Yeah.
And it depends whether you're asking about just the area that Gamblers Help Southwest at IPC Health. We cover 4 council areas.
Yeah.
Maribyrnong, which is the one we're in at the moment. We Bringbank,
Yeah.
Wyndham, which is at Werribee Way, and Hobson's Bay, which is down Williamstown. So we cover those 4 areas.
Fine.
Each council area in the state is covered by a Gamblers Help organisation that works in a health providing company like IPC Health.
So is it mandatory to have a Gamblers Help thing in the council area?
The Gamblers Help, this is all getting a bit complicated, but anyway, Gamblers Help is funded by an organisation called the Victorian Responsible Gambling Foundation.
Yeah.
So they're funded by the Victorian government, and their job is to fund organisations to provide those services that we've talked about in every government area, local government area in Victoria.
Yeah.
How big of a problem is gambling in Australia, and who does it affect the most?
Unfortunately, it's a very big problem. Billions of dollars are lost every day across the country. Across the area in which we live, in Bringbank, for example, which is St Albans Sunshine area, that area has had the biggest losses on poker machines in a council area for the last 11 years in a row. There are people who suicide because of their gambling issues. People lose their homes, they lose their cars, they lose their families. So there's an enormous amount of problems that occur, and one of the sad things is that people don't seek help until often it's too late. You know, they're sort of on the brink.
And I guess that's where our community engagement work comes in. We're really trying to catch people before they hit that crisis point, like early intervention. And that's where we go out into the communities and build rapport so that people feel comfortable to access the service earlier on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many people gamble?
There are a multitude of reasons. We find that often it's not... There's lots of things that happen in people's lives that lead to gambling. So when, I guess, people access our service and our counsellors are working with them to identify problems and why they may be gambling, it's not just one sole reason that they identify. It could be family issues, work issues, mental health issues, those types of things. So yeah, it's quite a complex thing to have a gambling addiction.
So one thing that might surprise you is that, and it's usually women who are experiencing family violence. They go to pokies venues because they're not safe in their own home.
Yeah.
When they go to a pokies venue, there are security people there, so even if they're followed, that they feel secure. In winter, it's warm. In summer, it's cool. And when they're playing the pokies, they can zone out and sort of forget their problems. And that's just one example that might surprise people.
What sort of strategies, just say someone comes in and they want to try stop gambling, what are some strategies that you'll go through with them?
The first thing is to try and help them understand why they gamble. Because unless you understand the underlying causes of why you're gambling, you can't then start to develop a plan to stop gambling.
Yeah.
So if I go back to the previous example of a woman who is experiencing violence in the home, unless she talks to the counsellor about that issue, and we talk about, you go because you're lonely, or you go because it's cold, or you go because...
Yeah.
It doesn't... No matter what you talk about there, that's not
Yeah.
the real reason that...
Yeah.
So people have got to understand why. So they've got to talk through.
Yeah.
Their problems.
And be very honest with themselves and others around them, even if they're not ready to disclose to their family and friends about it. At least having that safe space with a counsellor, they can explore those issues.
Yeah.
What's the most popular type of gambling?
Well, we have lots of stats on the pokies, but more recently, online gambling has become phenomenally popular. I mean, you can access these things on your phones, laptops, from home, from school, from your workplace, on the train, pretty much anywhere, and it's so easily accessible that, it's becoming quite a problem with younger people and also the older generation.
So if I can give an example of that, I go out to groups and we do talks on gambling and how we can help people. And this was with a group of people who are recovering from excessive use of alcohol. So they're doing a day program, and we just go in and talk about gambling because a lot of people who gamble also have issues with alcohol. Twice, and it's both times it's been young men who have said, I went to bed and I had money in my bank account. When I got up in the morning,
There's nothing.
I had nothing.
Donuts.
Exactly. And what they'd done was they'd gone to bed and started gambling on horse racing. So when they went to bed, there was horse racing taking part in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong's a bit behind us. So they bet in Hong Kong. Then when Hong Kong closed down, they started gambling in the Middle East, and then they started gambling in Europe. Then they started gambling in the east coast of the US. Then they started gambling on the west coast of the US. Then they started gambling on the horses in New Zealand, and then they had nothing.
Do you often see gambling addiction in teenagers?
This one's more emerging. So we've recently been working more with younger people in our local areas. We do school education sessions, and there are students that have disclosed that they are gambling, but I think the awareness is not quite there yet. And there's, I guess, it's a bit of a touchy subtopic, especially in schools to go in. So at the moment, our school education program is going from year 10 and up, but we think it would be more beneficial to go a little bit lower in the age categories there, so that we can really catch people younger. Because people, even though gambling is legal for those 18 and over, younger people are still finding ways to access gambling forms.
Just to give a plug to your school, we have been to your school and delivered that program to the VCAL classes.
I've just been at home sometimes, and I've heard my mum say, like, oh yeah, like she'll be looking at my sister playing something on her iPad, and she'll be like, oh, that's just like gambling. Do you think that games, like video games for little children, are like encouraging, like, oh yeah, win this if you do this, and pay extra and you'll get extra coins or something like that? Do you think that that's a problem with video games encouraging little kids to start gambling?
I definitely do, and the research it's very early research, but the research is starting to suggest that features in these games that parents are giving their children on iPads to play with are grooming children to be more familiar with how pokies reel goes, for example. So if you're thinking of I think it's called Candy Crush. You would be familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
And what you see is there's reels coming around and side to side, and there's things popping out and noises happening from this game. And in essence, it's really very similar to what a pokies screen looks like and how that operates as well. So the research it's still early research. We can't I guess conclusively say that there is a strong link there yet. But the research is starting to lead. It's starting to look that way.
And there are games that actively do encourage the player to gamble in them. So, what's that one with the
Grand Theft Auto?
That's the one. You grab a car and you're rushing away from the cops and you're shooting and all that stuff. But there's a casino in that game. So it's encouraging that, and under 18s can play this game. So it's encouraging you to go to the virtual casino and gamble. When people buy loot boxes online, you pay, I don't know, $2.10 or whatever, but
then you get addicted.
Yeah, well, do you get $2.10 worth of value? Sometimes. Yes. But look at the FIFA game, the soccer game. People want to buy Ronaldo. You've got one chance in 55 million or something of getting him, but people keep paying money to try and get him.
A follow-up question to that, is how does media advertising form betting companies impact the problem?
Well, I think there is nobody in society over the age of 10 who hasn't seen a gambling ad. Some kind of form of promotion sports betting companies, whether that be online, on the TV. I mean, if we went around the circle now, we could all name one different sports betting agency.
Can we?
No.
I feel we could. I mean, it's bombarding people quite a lot. I mean, they're playing it during the daytime. They've got it don't think they have it during sporting games anymore, but certainly before and after, and they are displaying the odds on screen.
Yeah.
So, you know, even younger children, they can identify sports betting agencies when you ask them, and also they know what the odds are, which when I was younger, we only learnt about the odds in, you know, like year 7 maths.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really influencing, all of that promotion is influencing and making people in society, and especially younger people, more familiar with the companies.
Have we got time for me to tell you a little story?
Of course.
Of course we do.
I bought a big issue of Footscray Station and I was going to work on the train, read this article on the train. It was about this fellow who was cleaning out the cupboard at home with his 9-year-old son. And when they were cleaning out the cupboard, they found this old football game at the bottom of the cupboard. It was called the Hutton's Footy Franks footy game. Now, I don't know if you know what Hutton's Footy Franks are, but they were the sausage, the alleged sausage that goes in a hot dog.
Yeah.
And they used to be sponsors of the VFL. That was before it became the AFL. So this is back in the 70s.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes,
I thought it was
before all of
future.
us
I thought it was future.
No.
It was like last year.
No.
No. Back when we were not born, even.
So this is
Ancient. We'll go with that.
a historical story. So Hutton's, because they were a sponsor of the VFL, they got the right to be able to make this game. So the boy said to his dad, "Oh, can we play? Can we play?"
Yeah.
So they opened up the board and spent an hour or so playing Hutton's Footy Franks VFL
Yeah.
game. And they had a great time, as 9-year-old boys do when they're playing games with their dad. You know, they love being around their dad. Anyway, so at the end of the game, they pack it up. They finish their task of cleaning the cupboard. Next day, the boy goes to the cupboard, pulls out the Hutton's Footy Franks. I'm not employed by Hutton's, by the way. Hutton's Footy Franks.
And
Footy
then
Franks
said,
game.
And then said, Dad, let's play.
Exactly. His dad is beaming, going, "Oh, he's had such a good time." So the young lad gets the board out, opens up the board, and his dad is amazed. Now, back in the 1970s...
Back in the days.
Yeah. There was no 50-metre square in the middle of the ground. So this 9-year-old put the square in. There was no 50-metre arc.
Wow.
So he'd drawn in the 50-metre arc.
And he made this, like, the Marvel Stadium, and went to producers.
No, he wasn't one of your guests who makes models of the
Okay.
of other things. And then his dad was, "Oh, this is amazing, you know, he loved the game so much." And then he was horrified because all around the boundary line he'd written sports bet, sports bet, sports bet, sports bet.
Yeah.
So it goes to your question, Hannah, about how much do children recognise through advertising.
Yeah.
This young lad had seen so much advertising associating gambling with football that the game wouldn't be complete without advertising around the boundary.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, it's quite sad that there's now an association between sports, the odds, and betting so strongly. I mean, go on.
Oh,
go
no.
on.
You can go.
Okay, just for anyone just listening in, my name is James on Footscray Live, and our special guests today are Ian and Juliet from Gamblers Help. So continue.
Oh, that was all. I was pumped for the next question.
How many people out there, like the population, how many of them actually win the money?
Ooh. I mean, much less than those who lose.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I couldn't tell you an exact figure. Ian, any?
No, I've got no idea. What I do know is that 70% of Victorians gamble.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I gamble.
Why? You work for the helpless people.
Yes, but now you're not going to believe this because I don't look old enough, but I play lawn bowls.
Me too.
You do, yeah, see. So every week I go and play lawn bowls, and at the break we have afternoon tea, and I buy a raffle ticket, $2 with the chance to win 10. That is gambling.
Mm-hmm.
So I gamble.
And how many times have you actually won the free?
I've been
lunch,
playing
Ian?
bowls for 13. I've worked this out a couple of times. I've been playing bowls for 13 years. I've played 26 weeks of the year, and so multiply 26 by 13. The mathematical geniuses here will do that. I've won twice.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost far more than I've won.
Yeah.
Wow. How often do you play lawn bowls?
Each week during the bowl season,
Yeah.
which is 26 weeks.
Half the year, pretty much.
Half the year.
Yeah.
So, when someone thinks that they have a family member or friend or even just someone that they know that might be involved in gambling, how can they, try and get help for them?
That is a good question. If that family member or friend is finding it hard, they, as in themselves, to speak to the person that's affected by gambling, they can first seek support themselves. So, and within that, speaking with our counsellors, they can actually ask for advice on what they can do to, I guess, how they can start that conversation with the person that they care about, and also how they might gently nudge them to seek support themselves. Yeah.
With the odds and evens,
Mm-hmm.
if they know before the game's finished, does that mean like AFL footy's rigged? In a way.
Oh, no. With the odds and evens, do you just mean the odds?
Yeah,
the
like how
odds
do
of
they find
everything?
out before it's even over?
Oh, they don't. That's the thing. So you can't actually predict an outcome of a sporting event because it is, although there are players who may be, I guess,
Better.
more skilled than others or have been training for longer, there's lots of different factors that happen on the day that influence the outcome of the event. So you can't actually predict the outcome of a sporting event. Although people try to, and they have all of these different
Same with TV
theories.
shows.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause
Like,
on
The
sport-
Survivor, for example,
Yeah.
Yes.
it's kind of the same, right? Like you have people who are more skilled than others. There are ones that are more manipulative than
Like,
others.
There's like in the final they put out, because I'm in like heaps of Facebook group chats,
Mm-hmm.
not group chats, pages, and they put the ones rules no sports betting is that sports bet always predicts like the top three
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how much they've
Yeah.
bet them by, and they've always got the correct winner.
Oh, I see. Well, I guess. How do we explain this, Ian? So I guess the odds.
I've just got one question for you, Juliet.
What's that?
What's Survivor?
The reality
I-
game
I'll
show on
explain, I'll
TV. Yes.
explain.
Okay.
So it's basically we're 24 people, random strangers, gets chucked on an island, and they have to do challenges in these tribes, and like, for example, climb a pole. They have to stay on that pole. The winner gets me, and they get voted off for each day.
Archie, how about we explain this after
Okay.
the interview? My question is, why is the Gamblers Help message important to young people in today's society?
Important to young people. I think we've already explored some of the influences on young people to gamble. Personally, I feel very sorry for young. Feel sorry.
You're concerned. You're more concerned
Because
yeah.
there's a lot more pressure on young people now than there were when I was a young person.
This is true. I can
Because
attest to that.
and those pressures are more financial.
Yeah.
So I was
Definitely.
very fortunate when I went to uni. It was basically free.
Yeah.
Young people now have HECS debts.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I bought my home, it was like 4 or 5 times my annual salary. Now it's more. It's closer to, I don't know, 10 or 11. I don't
Yeah.
know the exact figure, but it's a lot more.
Yeah.
So young people have to pay off their HECS debt. Then they have to, if they want to, and then there's all the other ways of spending money, which is much easier. Spending money online, for example,
Yeah.
is really simple compared to having to, which is what I had to do, get out of my chair,
Go to the store.
go to the tram, get the tram to the city,
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
the shop,
Yeah.
have the cash.
It's just much easier nowadays.
Yes, and so to me, young people are able to bleed money
Yeah. Yeah.
far more quickly
Yeah.
Yeah.
than people of my generation. And unless they're made aware of where those leaks are in their spending,
Yeah.
then they're going to. It's even more difficult to be
Yeah.
in control
Yeah,
of your
exactly.
finances.
Yeah.
So, gambling is one of those things
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's very easy to
Yeah.
start doing, to be influenced by your friends. And even if you're not being influenced by your friends, it's very easy, as I was talking before about those fellows who went to bed with money and then no money,
Yeah.
very easy to spend money on your own.
Yeah.
All right, well, that brings our show to an end. Thank you so much for joining us, Ian and Juliet. That was the gambling show. My name is James. I was joined by my panel of Archie G, Archie M, and Hannah. You are listening to Footscray Live.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.